Hello, smart drivers. Talking to you today about tailgating rear-ended, giving you habits and skills to put in place to keep yourself safe when you're driving so you don't get rear-ended. Because in North America, rear-end crashes are the number one crash that is the product of driving. That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so we're talking about minimum safe distance. We're talking about creating that space in front, and we're talking about stopping in traffic one vehicle length back, creating those habits to keep yourself safe. Because as I said, we know 30, 40-year driving career, most people are going to crash 3 or 4 times. So not having a crash is not an indication that you are in fact a good driver. Minimum safe distance between your vehicle and other vehicle on the road, people on the roadway. What is defensive driving? Defensive driving, what is defensive driving? Driving in a manner that allows you to make allowances and compensate for the errors of both yourself and other people. It's creating conditions that allow you to manage the risks associated with driving. So most of the time you can create space in front of your vehicle. Most of the time you can have that space between you and other vehicles, the minimum safe distance, because space buys you time, time buys you options, options prevent crashes. All right, the smarter defensive driving model allows you to define what is the problems that you're dealing with out on the roadways. It's not a matter of if somebody else is going to do something goofy, it's a matter of when somebody else is going to do something goofy. Some of the hallmarks of social driving are people following too close, speeding, not coming to complete stop signs at stop sign intersections, expecting people to stop only once at two-way stop signs, as I learned this morning, people on phones, distracted, those types of things. So generally the idea behind social driving is you're in my way, hurry up and go. It's me that's the good driver. It's everybody else on the roadway that needs to change. This is the problem that you're dealing with as a driver on the roadway. The tools that you could put in place to keep yourself safe: space management, speed management, communication, and observation. These are the tools in your smarter defensive driving toolkit. All right, minimum safe distance, 2 to 3 second following distance. And I know that there are a number of people who do not understand 2 to 3 second following distance, because they come back every time I ask this question on the community tab and they say, out on the highway, you need a 5-second following distance. The reason that we measure in time is because it is relative. The faster you go, the bigger the space gets between you and vehicles in front of you. So you do not need to change how much you're following if you're keeping a 2 to 3 second following distance. And how we measure that, the vehicle in front of you goes past a fixed object, you start counting 1 watermelon, 2 watermelon, 3 watermelon, and then you're going past the fixed object. But many people don't know this. They simply go with the rhetoric of what everybody else is saying. Generally, if you're only using the accelerator to control space in front of your vehicle, then you have a good following distance between you and the vehicles in front of you. If you're using the brake all the time to control space between you and the vehicles in front, you're too close. Increase your following distance. And I can tell you right now that most of the people on the roadway are keeping a 1.5 second following distance. They are simply following too close. Stopping in traffic 1 vehicle length back from the vehicle in front of you. The way that you know that, the landmark you have is seeing it, being able to see the tires of the vehicle in front, making clear contact with the pavement, and 3 feet minimum between you and vulnerable road users, pedestrians, e-scooters, electric bicycles, those types of things. Okay, because space buys you time, time buys you options, options prevent crashes by allowing you to respond accordingly to traffic around you. Rear end crashes, okay? Stopping in traffic 1 vehicle length back allows you several defensive posturing options, okay? First and foremost, it is a defensive posturing against being rear-ended, because while you're sitting there, you can be monitoring your side mirrors, you can monitor your center mirror and see and watch traffic coming up behind you. If they're coming up too fast, you simply roll forward, tap the brake pedal, and that will flash your brake lights indicating that they are coming up too fast and need to get stopped. Now, if you change your mind or the vehicle in front of you breaks down, then what you can do is you can move around that vehicle in front without backing up in traffic, because this is one thing that you never want to do, is back up in traffic. If the car in forward is a manual car and rolls backwards, it's not going to roll into you. And in the ideal utopic world in which I live, if everybody stayed back 1 vehicle length at the traffic light, the entire pack of cars would be able to move off together. Okay, out on the highway, drive in the spaces between the clusters. For whatever reason, cars on the highway like to drive in packs. Okay, and if you can drive in the spaces between the packs, you are going to be a much, much safer driver. Okay, control space to your side. Don't track other vehicles, which means don't pace beside them. Try and get either in front or behind other vehicles. Okay, there are two ways out of an emergency situation: either brake or steer. Steering is much faster and is a better option, but you need space in which to drive your vehicle. Braking, on the other hand, oftentimes you're not going to get your vehicle stopped in time. So if you can manage space, have space in the event of an emergency, you can simply steer out of the emergency situation and probably survive the emergency situation. Who's driving when people are tailgating you, when people are following too close? Are you driving or are they driving? First and foremost, if other people are tailgating you, focus on what you're doing, not on what they're doing. Do not brake check them. Do not speed up. Do not slow down. Okay, these are the wrong responses to somebody tailgating you. Have more space in front of your vehicle. Signal well in advance if you're going to turn or those types of things. And as I said, your best option for somebody tailgating you is to simply find a safe place to pull off the roadway, let them pass, and go and have their crash somewhere else. Predict traffic patterns. This is part and parcel of safer, smarter driving, okay? And this is the reason you want to create that 2 to 3 second following distance in front of your vehicle to be able to predict traffic patterns. Looking forward, mapping intersections, and we're going to talk more about that in the next slide here. Know that there are going to be things on the roadway that are going to cause rubberneckers and other unpredictable actions. A police vehicle, for example, on the highway is going to cause traffic to bunch up behind it because nobody wants to pass the police vehicle. Characteristics of other vehicles, especially right now in the summertime with motorcycles, all kinds of goofy little three-wheeled vehicles out on the highways, caravans, pickup trucks pulling camper trailers, big trucks. And then in the wintertime, we have snowmobiles and other recreational vehicles out on the roadway. So know that the season of the year is going to change traffic patterns. Interpret the actions of individual road users. And here we have a merge situation because we have construction absolutely everywhere right now. And the zipper merge. Don't engage in the zipper merge, okay? Simply merge over as quickly as you can and get into the other lane. Control space in front of your vehicle and keep yourself safe. If you wait until the bottleneck and you zipper merge and hope on a wing and a prayer that the person beside you is going to let you in, okay, you've limited your options and you have significantly increase the risk associated with merging there at the bottleneck in the construction zone. So get over as soon as quickly as you can. I do not endorse the zipper merge. It is the most ill-conceived traffic safety, traffic maneuver that has been put out there by government bureaucrats who have absolutely no business creating policy around traffic safety. Mapping intersections, tracking road users at intersections. We know as traffic safety professionals that more than 40% of crashes happen at intersections, and we also know it is the place where you are most likely to encounter vulnerable road users, pedestrians, kids on bicycles, those types of things. In high-income countries in the world, the United States, North America, Europe, I mean, no, some of those are not countries, they're continents, but more than 25% of traffic fatalities are vulnerable road users, and it's at intersections where you're most likely to encounter these. So create space, manage speed so that you can keep the 3 feet minimum between your vehicle and vulnerable road users at intersections. Determine what kind of intersection is it. Is it a simple cross street, or is it a complex intersection with right turning lanes, left turning lanes, protected left turns, and those types of things? Use these cautionary signs to determine where the intersections are located. Roundabouts, yes, to our intersections, and then traffic lights. All this infrastructure will help you to locate intersections, map and track the intersection, and locate other road users at the intersection that are going to cross your path of travel. Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Talking about habits and skills you can put in place to prevent being rear-ended. You're not going to prevent other drivers tailgating you. Unfortunately, that's what they're going to do. However, I do recommend that after you get your driver's license that you do keep up with traffic flow. This will make you more predictable on the roadways and will prevent tailgating, because tailgaters generally, as a rule, tend to tailgate other drivers to tell them that they're driving too slow, and then it's the cat and mouse game where the person in front who's being tailgated slows down to tell the person behind them that they're tailgating, and it's just this never-ending cycle where one person is tailgating and the other person's like freaking out and not really being productive and protecting themselves in terms of driving. So first and foremost, you need to focus on what you're doing. And the number one technique for dealing with tailgaters is, if there is someplace safe to move over, just move over, stop, let them pass, and go and have their crash somewhere else. Marion is tuning in. Hello, hello. Is someone hitting you from the back? Rear end. Yes, Rawson, the 4 types of crashes. And that is an excellent question, Rawson. Thank you for that, because as people who talk about this all the time, experts in their field, you know, we're always careful about calling ourselves an expert, because we know what an expert is, right? An X is a has-been and a spurt is a drip under pressure. But we all want to be like a farmer's donkey, outstanding in our field. So, yes, rear end crashes. So there's 4 types of crashes. Head-on collisions, where 2 cars going towards each other run into each other. T-bone crashes, and that's a side impact crash where one vehicle is sideways and the other one drives into the side of the vehicle. Sideswipe crash is where 2 vehicles collide going in the same direction on the side of the vehicle. And then rear end crashes are when one vehicle runs into the back end of the other vehicle. And the reason for that is because drivers follow too close. It's that simple. And it's part and parcel of the arena of social driving. It's the problems that you're dealing with every day out on the roadways. People think that they have enough distance between their vehicle and vehicles in front of them, but they don't. You should be following at a 2 to 3 second following distance, because if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. So keep that following distance. Space buys you time, time buys you options. Options prevent crashes. And as well, by having time, it allows you to read traffic patterns and interpret the actions of individual road users and respond accordingly, because then you have options. Whereas if you're hoping on a wing and a prayer that you're going to get your vehicle stopped, most of the time you're not going to. And statistics support what we're talking about in terms of protecting yourself and putting in place the habits and skills. Create those habits where you're following at a 2 to 3 second following distance, stopping in traffic 1 vehicle length back from the vehicle in front of you. The way that you know that is the tires. You can see the tires of the vehicle in front of you making clear contact with the pavement, and then 3 feet minimum between your vehicle and vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, kids on e-scooters, those types of things. That's what you need to do. Ross and I do follow the traffic flow, and yes, it is better. I mean, if the traffic flow is being crazy 20, 30 kilometers an hour or 10, 15 miles an hour above the posted speed limit, then no, don't keep up with traffic flow, but within reason. And, you know, 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit in the United States, you're not going to get bothered by police, okay? They are not going to pull you over. They have enough people speeding excessively that 5 miles an hour is not going to get you pulled over by police. Maybe in the state of Ohio, but the rest of the, the other 49 states, no. Okay? So there you go. And in Canada, 10 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit is generally the traffic flow, and you're going to be just fine. So we're talking about tailgating, rear-ended, protecting yourself, creating habits and skills for defensive driving, because we know as traffic safety professionals that you are going to crash 3 or 4 times in a 30, 40-year driving career. All right? Defensive driving puts in place habits and skills that are going to keep you safe when other people make mistakes and when you make mistakes, because we all make mistakes when we're driving. Maybe not today, tomorrow, next week, or next month, but in 6 months you'll make a mistake, and these habits that you have created and put in place by keeping that 2 to 3 second following distance, stopping in traffic 1 vehicle length back from the vehicle in front of you, these habits and skills are going to keep you safe. Rawson, you can go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit in Ohio. Okay, awesome. There was always a joke, Rawson, when I used to drive truck in the 1990s about driving through the state of Ohio. Of course, most of the time when I was going through the state of Ohio was on Interstate 75 from Toledo to Cincinnati, 212 miles. And you know, the joke was is that they were going to lay off some of the state troopers policing speeding along I-75. They were only going to have one at every mile marker now. But that was the joke. Deacon, but even if you have no tailgating on your car, you move up so far in the middle of the street to get away from people, they still get close to your bumper. What can I do? Yes. And Deaconess, yes, don't speed. Don't change your speed. Okay, don't slow down. Don't speed. Those types of things when people are tailgating you. As I said, the best defensive posturing you can do when somebody is tailgating you, if you can find a place to safely pull over, let them pass, okay? Give them lots of notice that you were going to signal, you were going to move over to the side of the road, let them pass, and then just carry on with your life, okay? Let them go and have their crash somewhere else, because as I said, if you do something, you brake check them, you slow down, you speed up, they're just going to keep tailgating you, right? Because they want to be in front of you. This is a way that people communicate in the arena of social driving, is they tailgate you to tell you that you're going too fast. And you speed up or you slow down or you brake check them. All these are incorrect responses, and they're going to get you into trouble eventually. And we want to try not to get into trouble. This is the reason that we develop the habits and skills to keep ourselves safe. Eric, even flashing your hazard lights, yes. Now, this is another technique that you can do, and this is the reason that I tell you to signal early and well in advance of changing directions or turning when people are tailgating you, because our eyes are attracted to light and movement. So flashing blinker lights, right? Well in advance, that's going to get the attention of the person tailgating you. As I'm going to tell you in the presentation here, if you're sitting in a queue of traffic and you're stopped and you're monitoring your center mirror and the person behind you is coming up and they're coming up too fast, you can roll forward and tap the brake pedal, and that's going to flash the brake lights on the back of your car, and oftentimes it's going to get them stopped. Now, one of the other things, I'm going to say this right now before I forget, because I forgot to say this morning in the presentation, you see oftentimes on interstates, freeways, these massive pileups where it's foggy, snowy, whatever, there's obstruction of vision, okay, on the interstate or freeway, and people come up and they don't get stopped in time, right? And they're just piling in on one car after another, after another, after another. This is a form of rear-ending other vehicles. Now, what can you do? So you're looking far down the interstate, you're looking far down the freeway, you're seeing the pileup, okay? Start slowing down back from the pileup half a mile, okay? Get your four-way flashers on, tapping your brake lights, okay? Brake lights aren't going to work when you have your four-way flashers on, but get your four-way flashers on. That gets the attention of the traffic behind you. It is less likely that a vehicle that is moving forward is going to be rear-ended. Most of the time you're going to get rear-ended is when you're stopped. And you don't want to be right up on the pile up in front of you or the vehicles in front of you that are stopped. You want to be back and you want to be rolling forward to protect yourself and keeping aware in that center mirror and your side mirrors of what's going on behind you. So again, create that space of having that 2 to 3 second following distance in front of you, and that is going to protect you from being rear-ended. Ross, and if someone is tailgating you, keep your cool, stay relaxed. You don't want to get road rage. Exactly. And you don't want emotion involved in this, right? Because once emotion gets involved in this, once you get angry, you're not thinking. It's a 4-year-old and 27 lizards, as they used to say to us in the anger management course that I took some years ago, okay? You are not thinking clearly. And I had an incident like this when I was driving back from Vancouver Island. I don't know whether I was tired or that, you know, I just, something happened and I was tailgating this person for whatever reason, and it turned into this cat and mouse game. And finally, the person brake checked me. They slammed their brakes on in front of me, and I kind of snapped out of this 4-year-old and 27 lizards mindset. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is insane. And so this is what happens. You need to take your emotion out of driving. And when somebody else does something, you just wave, smile, go and have your crash somewhere else, because you don't know what's going to happen. You know, it could descend into something, that kind of craziness, where I was lucky enough that I just like, what am I doing? This is nuts. There you go. And Corey's put up the video on strategies and tips to deal with road ragers in 2024. Thank you for that, Corey. Marion, I really hate those videos. They just keep going into the piles of vehicles, awful sounds. Yeah, and that's not something you want to be in. So you got to look far down the road, adjust your speed to the conditions of the roadway, and you got to slow down back from that, right? And you're either flashing your brake lights or activate your four-way flashers. And it was last night, coming back from the airport, I went and picked Tracy up, and I come back in and we were talking about emergency vehicles. Well, I was in the queue at the traffic light, and the traffic light had just turned green. I heard the emergency vehicle coming. I knew where I was in relation to the paramedic station, and I heard it coming. I couldn't see it, and then I saw it, and I just stopped back, and I was about 3 or 4 car lengths back from the intersection, and I just stayed stopped, and the emergency vehicle went by on the other lane, and everything was good. So sometimes you got to stay stopped and activate your four-way flashers. That was the point that I was going to make about the emergency vehicle, because when I was 3 or 4 lengths back from the intersection, I activated my four-way flashers to indicate to other traffic that I was doing something unpredictable, so that I wouldn't be rear-ended. Of course, I had awareness of what was going on. I knew that there was already traffic backed up behind me, and if I was stopped, they weren't going to go anywhere. So this is what you need to do. They're the rager. Okay, excellent. So yes, four-way flashers. Okay, anything that you can do to get the attention of the person behind you, and flashing lights are going to get the attention of the person behind you. Four-way flashers, tapping the brake pedal to flash the brake lights. This is what you want to do. This is why there are strobe lights on the top of school buses. Maybe not where you live, but I know in the here in British Columbia, we have strobe lights on the top of school buses, and Ontario has strobe lights. Pennsylvania has strobe lights. Just let me know down in the comments there if where you live, when school is in session and the school buses are out, do they have strobe lights on the top of the school buses? This is why they have them there, because it's flashing. It's getting people's attention, because our eyes are attracted to light and movement. Colton, I never get tired of hearing in the queue. It's much better than in the line. Yes, it's got a certain cachet about it, doesn't it, Colton? In the queue. I'm in the queue. Yeah, Marion, those pile-up videos, yeah, they're pretty terrible, right? Because you're just, you know that people are getting hurt and possibly killed in those multi-lane pile-ups. And it's, people say, oh, there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't get my vehicle stopped and those types of things. No, you made a mistake because you weren't observing. You were driving too fast for conditions, and you weren't looking far down the roadway to be able to get your vehicle stopped. So, you need to do all of these things to keep yourself safe when you're driving. Eric says out here, they have strobe lights as well. Yeah, so that's the reason they have strobe lights. So this is the thing that you need to do when you're sitting, when you're driving. People are tailgating. You need to communicate to them that they are following too close. And I guarantee you, try this in the future. Tap your brake pedal. Flash the brake lights on the back of the car. They'll back off. I guarantee you, they will back off, because they're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because they're not really sure what's going on. Here's another interesting tidbit of driving information that I learned this morning. So this morning, of course, like everybody else at two-way stop signs, I was just pulling up to the edge of the road, stopping, looking, making sure that it was clear to go. And when it was clear to go, then I proceeded. Right? So this morning, I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, I pulled up to the two-way stop sign. I'm like, oh, I'll stop at the correct stopping position. I'll stop behind the stop line. I stopped behind the stop line, and then I started creeping forward because I couldn't see at the intersection. All of a sudden, I hear this big air brakes come on and a large vehicle braking. I look up, and the dump truck with a trailer on behind it is thinking that I am going to drive into the intersection, and they're taking evasive action. And so this is the other piece that I learned about social driving, is that at two-way stop signs, people expect you to stop once. They don't expect you to stop and then creep forward so you can see at the intersection. Another part of social driving. Elevator fan, honking your horn, not so much. Okay, it's better to flash the brake lights or activate your four-way flashers than it is to activate the horn, because you're in front of the vehicle that's behind you. They're not really going to hear your horn. Okay. It's a good idea, but it's probably not your best form of communication to indicate to the person behind you that they're tailgating. The best way to tell them they're tailgating is just tap your brake pedal and flash your brake lights. That will oftentimes be enough to get people to get back off. All right, for those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauling freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. I drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there in Australia. When I was going to university, became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1998. Worked with truck drivers, bus drivers, logbooks, air brakes. That was my expertise. I have a book called Air Brakes Explained Simply, which works to help you pass your air brakes for commercial vehicles. I also did driver rehabilitation training, working with people who had experienced debilitating injuries, loss of limb, brain injury, or some other form of debilitation that they had to get back and do rehabilitation to get back to driving, working with hand controls and those types of things. Did that kind of work. 2006, I graduated from the University of Melbourne with my doctorate in legal history, study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. And you want to see more information about me, about the Smart Drive Test business, online presence, you can check out the autobiography over at the Smart Drive Test website. And Corey's put that link up there. Thank you for that, Corey. It's an elevator fan. I do 2 to 3 second following distance when I'm behind someone, and that is awesome. That's going to make you safer and make other people feel more comfortable on the roadway, because people are terrified of tailgaters. Not quite as much as winter driving, but they are terrified of people tailgating them out on the roadways. Hello, Fred. How are you, my friend? Marion, I don't understand why some people will stop at the corner of the road rather than use the merge lane. The merge lane is there for a reason. Yes, Marion, I don't understand that either. It's one of the skills of driving that confounds me, that I just don't really have an answer for, other than they have a low skill level and a low comfort level when they're driving, and this is maybe the reason why they stop at these intersections. Now, the other observation that I have made of late is many women, and probably a fair number of men as well, women who get their motorcycle license oftentimes because their boyfriend or significant other has a motorcycle and they want to ride with them, and they don't want to ride on the back of the motorcycle, they want to ride their own motorcycle. They don't look comfortable when they're riding a motorcycle, okay? And the last thing you want to be when you're riding a motorcycle is to be tense and apprehensive about what you're doing, because there are risks associated with riding a motorcycle. You are 35 times more likely to die on a motorcycle than you are on any other vehicle on the roadway. As I say, there are no fender benders on a motorcycle. You are at risk. It's the same thing with a bicycle. There's no fender benders on a motorcycle. You get hurt, okay? That is the reality of it. And, it's just an observation that I make when I see people, because, I am fascinated by traffic. I'm fascinated by drivers and road users. And, the other piece, here's my other observation that I've seen of late. Pedestrians get hit because they walk like this, with their head down. They don't get eye contact with the driver, and they're not looking. They don't move over. They don't create space. I mean, when I am walking, I do not trust car drivers. I love car drivers. I teach them to drive all the time, but I do not trust them. I get eye contact. I call them names because they don't stop. They don't slow down. I don't trust them, and I will not step out in a roadway. And you get some old person in a car and they're like, "Oh, go, and I'm like, "No, you go, I'll go after you, because I am not stepping out in front of you." I'm not sure what's going on with your body, but you don't look healthy, and I'm not really sure you're able to hold down that brake pedal. So yes, that's something I don't do. And so you do not know what skill level people have who are sitting behind the wheel of an automobile. And believe me, I was talking to Phil, well, I was training with Phil, and he showed up yesterday at jiu-jitsu, and making a right-hand turn. And this is what I tell my kids all the time. If you're going across an intersection, look left, because the right-hand turning car is right there. And Phil, unfortunately, really awful story here in town. Big 150 Ford 2022 makes a right-hand turn and runs over a girl crossing the roadway. And all she had to do was look left and let the goofball go. Unfortunately, she was seriously injured. I don't know whether she's in hospital now. She was airlifted to Vancouver, which for many of you may or may not know, Vancouver is 5 hours southwest of here from where I live. So it was pretty serious if they airlifted her to Vancouver. You know, so don't trust people. If you're walking, do not trust car drivers. On their phone. Yes, that's one of the reasons. Completely understandable. Steve, I'm studying for my CDL permit and struggling like crazy. Steve, which part are you struggling with currently? Is it the air brakes or studying, driving? Which part? Corey, great idea. In the meantime, all the videos applies to learning pickup trucks, how to drive a sport utility vehicle. Yes, okay. And Corey, there's also the pickup truck parallel parking video. We can do some more of those for you. Sandeep, in Germany, it is taught zipper merge is the best way to reduce traffic jams and is promoted. I personally agree to you. Merging as soon as possible, much better. Thank you, Sandeep. And yeah, you're not the first person that has told me that. Tracy has told me that as well. She's driven in Germany. I have not driven in Germany. They do teach it. You're absolutely correct. However, it is not your best defensive posturing. Okay? And unfortunately, people are not taught how to zipper merge here in North America. As you said, it is part of the education in Germany, and there is much more emphasis. They are taught. They have a higher level of training in Germany than they do here. But I'm sorry, even with that kind of education and emphasis on zipper merging, I disagree. I completely 100 disagree, because my entire defensive driving model is based on creating space. And if you are waiting to the bottleneck where one person is moving and one person is moving, you are giving up all that space and you're too close to other vehicles. And I don't want to be that close to other vehicles. And not only that, as I just said, I don't trust car drivers. Because the skill level is 0 to whatever, and you don't know what state they're in, what mindset they're in, whether they've been drinking or they've been, smoking pot, or what health level they're in, because many people are not healthy. Especially here in North America, they're not healthy. They can barely walk. You see them with walkers and whatnot, and they get in the car and they've got 2 canes. And here's a story. Years ago, when I was doing driver rehabilitation, there was a native Canadian came in. He was driving this, half-ton Chevy van, beat up blue van, and he's in a wheelchair. He's a paraplegic, both legs below the knees, amputated. And so we went out for a couple lessons. We got along really well. His name was Joe. He was really awesome, cordial. I loved working with him. He was really great. We're driving the van with the hand controls and, had a couple lessons. He was doing really well. He was going to be just fine. He comes in the next day, and I met him in the back parking lot behind the hospital. And he comes in, he wheels up the ramp, and he points back to his old beat up van. He's like, "Oh, I'm really glad I'm getting these driving lessons." I said, "Oh, yeah, no, that's really great." I said, "We're going to get you some driving lessons. We'll get you back to driving here and get you going." And he says, "Oh, yeah." He says, "Yeah, there's all that." He says, "But, I've been driving that old van there with a broomstick for 2 years." So this is exactly what I'm talking about. You don't know what other people are doing in their car, because it is our second most personal space. Next to our house, our car is our second most personal space. And you just don't know. And it's the same thing as my brother. I'll go to my brother's place, and he got me one time on this, and I will never do this again when he's, because, the vehicle will break down. They'll have it towed to his shop, and then it's outside, and they have to push it into the shop. So we're pushing the car into the shop on the ramp so they can fix it. And he says to me, "Oh, jump in and steer that." And I got in this vehicle, I jumped in the vehicle, and it was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. It was filthy to the point of retching. And I just got out, I looked at him, and I said, "Yeah, I'm not doing that again." And, I've talked to different technicians, automotive technicians, where they say to me, you get a 2-year-old vehicle in here that looks like it's 20 years old and is absolutely a wreck and treated terribly and filthy disgusting. And they said, you know, on the other hand, you know, like the buggy, they'll get a 20, 30-year-old vehicle in there and it's absolutely pristine. So again, I don't really trust people and their cars, right? Carrie, you should also said in a different live stream that the zipper merge breaks down because vehicles are all different sizes, and as soon as big truck wants to zipper merge, this model breaks down. And you're absolutely right. Thank you for adding that to as well, Carrie, with the zipper merge. And exactly what Carrie said. The zipper merge works if you have homogeneous traffic. As you see in all the zipper merge models, it's just cars. It's not cars. It's, you know, it's not motorcycles, tractor trailers, straight trucks, pickup trucks pulling trailers and those types of things. That's not what zipper merging is in reality, right? And as Carrie said, you get a semi truck and you get 4 cars beside the semi truck and you come up to the bottleneck. Is the semi truck going to back off so that 4 cars can go in the semi truck in front of the semi truck? Not likely. Not likely. And then they get behind. Is the car behind the semi truck going to let 4 cars in? Well, as soon as that happens, as Carrie just said, the entire zipper merge breaks down. It falls apart. It doesn't work anymore, right? So you need to move over into the other lane as quickly as possible. Elevator, I saw zipper merging in Lafayette, Indiana today. Yes, and some people will do that. And some people, again, it creates this conflict on our roadways because some people believe we zipper merge. We must zipper merge, and there's no gray area in their world, right? If you don't zipper merge, there was an incident, and I have the newspaper article, I have the resource where somebody didn't zipper merge in Michigan, and the person got into road rage and followed them for like 25 miles and followed them home, right? So it is another conflict on our roadways that creates road rage incidents and puts people in peril and puts people in danger, right? So this is why you need to create that space, and it's going to reduce and manage the risks associated with road rage. Corey, the only way it would work is a fantasy scenario where everyone has a 4 to 5 second following distance beforehand. So zipper mergers already have good space to the slip lane right into needing to recreate the space. It just doesn't happen. And you're absolutely right, Corey. It doesn't work because people don't have, that's the other thing that causes it to break down, is people do not have homogeneous following distance, right? Some people are following at 1 car length depending on the speed of the traffic going through the construction zone, and then, you know, the speed is variable all the time, and then people are right up on people's bumpers. It just, there are too many variables involved in zipper merging that won't allow it to work. Okay, retired. Hello, my friend. Steve, thanks for being on, but I have to go back to studying. Okay, Steve, if you have any questions, let us know. More than happy to help you out there and get you going. Marion, what I have found as well is there's only trees planted on the sidewalk, and quite often pedestrians will be hidden behind that as you are about to turn right. Yes, absolutely. And this is why, Marion, especially on red lights, you need to be stopped so you can observe correctly, so that you're looking, you're mapping and tracking these people who are hiding, not only behind trees, as you said, but behind light standards, traffic lights, signs, posts, fire hydrants, you know, somebody walking the other way because you're moving, right? Everything is moving in traffic. And, you know, you get that sometimes where you're going along the roadway and you see somebody, but you can't see them because somebody else is going the other way and you're moving at kind of the same angle. And so for an entire half a block, this one piece is hiding this other thing. And we see that with trains on multiple tracks. So the train is going past, right, like this, and the truck drives out onto the train tracks, and this train, which is going this way on the near track, the other train is coming the other way on the far track. This train is hiding this train that's approaching. The truck drives out onto the track and smucks the truck. And we get that all the time in driving because pieces are moving, road users are moving on the roadway. And so this is why we teach you to shoulder check. It's not so you're shoulder checking and you're looking in that direction to absolutely be sure that there's nobody there. We're looking for light and movement so that we can move our central vision in and we can figure out where people are, right? That are potentially going to cross our path of travel. Same thing with people behind us, talking about tailgaters and preventing yourself being rear-ended today, right? Keeping that 360-degree awareness around your vehicle. And this is why we teach shoulder checking. This is why we're still reluctant to not rely on observation technology, proximity sensors, backup cameras. I'm missing one. Proximity sensors, blind spot detectors, backup cameras, okay? These are just a backup to good driving skills and observation. We need to be moving our head when we're driving, looking around, tracking and mapping other road users, right? As Marion says, splat. Yep. Fred, gotta get space management planted in everyone's brain. Yes, because if we're not near anything, it's less likely we're going to hit something. But we cannot teach people that because they're in a hurry, they get up too close, they participate in social driving. Because ask any new driver if they feel pressured when they drive, and they will unequivocally say to you, yes, I feel pressured by other people to hurry up and go. We all feel pressured by other people. It is one of the fundamental key components of social driving. Emily, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. Yes. Colton, adaptive cruise control. Yes, that is another form of observation technology, but kind of space management technology. Adaptive cruise control and lane assist. Really great. And I mean, it's the closest thing you're going to get to an autonomous vehicle without actually having an autonomous vehicle. So know that. Elevator fan, all the best, my friend. Take care. Adaptive cruise control is really great. It's a bit of a learning curve. If you come from the old cruise control where you're just on a constant speed, but you can learn how to do it. You can manage that space in front and you can figure out, okay, wait, I'm 2 seconds behind that vehicle in front of me. I got to get out in the other lane. Otherwise the sensor is going to grab that car and it's going to start slowing down my vehicle. But really great technology that's going to keep you safe on highways, freeways, interstates, those types of things. So it's going to help you out. Okay. So manage space. This is the fundamental component of the smarter defensive driving model. Observation. Okay. You've got space management, 2 to 3 second following distance, stopping in traffic 1 vehicle length back from the vehicle in front of you, 3 feet between you and pedestrian, cyclists, other vulnerable road users. Then you have speed management. Speed controls space in front of your vehicle because you can always control that space in front of your vehicle. And people say to me all the time, they come back when I say this to them, people are going to cut in. No, they're not going to cut in. Okay. And it's kind of that energy about what you put out is what you get back, right? And if you control that space in front, people aren't going to cut in. If you think people are going to cut in, then of course people are going to cut in all the time. But it's kind of like the broken window theory, that Giuliani, the mayor of New York in the 1990s, cleaned up New York with all the crime and those types of things, where, the broken window theory. If you have a window that's broken, kids and vandals are going to come along and they're going to break the other window. So we need to fix the window. If we fix the window, then the other ones won't be broken. It's the same thing in the men's washroom with the urinals, with the cigarette butts throwing, back in the 90s. Of course, we don't smoke like we used to, but throwing cigarette butts. The janitor complained about cigarette butts in the urinals all the time. The guy says, we'll just keep the cigarette butts cleaned out for a couple of days, and then people won't do it. It's the same thing with keeping that space in front. You find that if you keep that space in front, other drivers will do it too. They'll start keeping space in front of their vehicle. And we all get safer, right? People will not cut in. They do it every now and again, but if they're cutting in, they're only going to be there for a couple of minutes and then they're gone. All right. Corey, suppose a way to think about it, you aren't really eye looking, more like glancing when doing the 90-degree shoulder check, your peripheral vision doing most and all of the work. And Corey is absolutely 100% right. It's your peripheral vision is doing the work. You are looking for light and movement in this area over here. And so when I turn my head, now I've moved it over here, 90 degrees, okay? The 120 degrees of peripheral vision. Light and movement. And if there is something there, then you look again and identify what's in your blind area. But you're looking for the light and movement and the shoulder checking there. Emily, question, okay, is it just me or is parallel parking on the driver's hand side way harder, different? So you're talking about, Emily, like on a one-way street. We have a video for that as well. Is it harder on a one-way street? I think it's actually easier because you're on less of a blind area as opposed to on your other side. But I mean, it depends on the person too. It's not always, you know, might be just you. I don't know. Or it might be just me. Epic, when driving a car and bus, it's very important to keep your distance behind other vehicles, including trucks with hazardous loads. Consequences of this, the Clinton, New Jersey bus accident yesterday, YT Channel 4. Epic, if you could send me that, would be really great. I'd love to have a look at it. Yes, on one-way streets, Emily. Emily, have you done it very often? Just go and try it again and see how much harder it is. I don't know. Maybe it is difficult. But there, like I said, there's a video here and it might give you some tips and strategies on how to do that. I felt so weird doing it today, so used to doing it on the other side. Yes, okay. Emily, if you're just doing it for the first time, yeah, it's going to be weird. No doubt about it. You know, I don't do it very often. I do it every now and again. It's weird. It's definitely weird because you're on a one-way street and you're parallel parking. You're like, oh, that's kind of weird because you're on the other side of the street, right? So yeah. Steven, how much do I creep forward for those unprotected right turns? Okay, so Steven, you stopped at a two-way stop sign intersection and then you move forward. You move forward to the edge of the intersection, the front of the vehicle at the edge of the intersection. And then when it's clear, you have a gap, then you proceed. Emily, my first time in the driver's side? Yes. So definitely weird. Okay, so space management, speed management, posted speed limit, or the flow of traffic for the purposes of a driver's test. If you have your driver's license, I do advocate keeping up with traffic flow. It makes you more predictable and less chance of you being tailgated by other drivers, because the basic form of communication, other drivers telling you they're tailgating, they're telling you you're going too slow is what they're doing. This is the reason they're tailgating you. And for left lane squatters, you know, as Tracy said, she drives a sports car. She likes to drive fast. If she's tailgating you and you're sitting in the left lane, she's exactly telling you that you're going too slow and you need to get out of the left lane. Okay? You need to get over into the bumper lane. Epic, that accident was the fault of the New Jersey transit bus driver because didn't keep their distance away from the placarded truck. Importantly, keep your space to avoid rear-ending other vehicles. Exactly. People are following too close. As we talked about in the introduction, the number one crash in North America is rear end crashes. Okay? And it's because people are following too close. They're distracted, right? Defensive driving is put in place skills and habits to keep yourself safe when you make mistakes and when other people make mistakes. Observation. We need to observe correctly when we're driving. We need to interpret traffic patterns and we need to understand the actions of individual road users on the roadway so that we can respond accordingly, because we have our space, and because we have our space, we have time. Time buys us options. Options prevent crashes. Forward scanning pattern. Far down the road, center mirror, far down the road, instrument panel, far down the road, side mirror. Every 15 to 20 seconds, and you want to have that 360-degree awareness all the way around your vehicle, so you want to know whether you can go through that yellow light or whether you need to come to a stop safely, right? Because we had this discussion this morning about yellow lights. Remember, and many people will come back and argue with me, if you're in the intersection on a yellow light, you didn't run a red light. That's not true on a driver's test. I will guarantee you, if you enter an intersection on a yellow light in a driver's test, and the examiner looks up and sees that light turn red, automatic fail on a driver's test. I promise you that. You can argue with me until the cows come home, but the reality of a driver's test, you're going to fail. Okay? Now, after you get your driver's license and you proceed through the intersection on a yellow light, or you decide that you're going to stop, you got to figure out what's behind you when you're bringing your vehicle to a stop. And you should be doing that anyway as part of the habits you've created to keep yourself safe when you're driving. You have an awareness of who's behind you and how far behind you they are so that you can bring your vehicle to a safe stop at an intersection. Marion, I'm not sure. I was thinking this morning I had four-way stop, but the car opposite went and I thought, okay, I can go too. Yeah, sometimes you can, Marion. So when you're at a four-way stop and this car goes, you can go at the same time. Same thing on the cross street. And I mean, that's how you increase traffic flow at the intersection. I mean, I do that all the time. If I'm sitting there at the four-way stop and the car across from me is coming straight through, I'm going straight through too at the same time, because nobody else can go at the intersection, right? The cross traffic can't go. So cross traffic goes, you go, they go, you go. It's only messed up when, you know, vehicles start turning and then you have to wait for them to go and then they go and those types of things. Stephen, how do I make sure I have safe gap when my view is obscured during a left turn? Okay, so Stephen, if you have obstructions during a left-hand turn and you can't see, you need to inch out until you can see, okay? Do not go until you can see. And actually what I'll do, now that you say that, I'll make a short for you, Stephen, because at the gym where I train, at the dojo where I train, it's an obstructed left-hand turn, and you come out, you can't see, you can see to the right, and look, there's nobody coming, and then creep out really slowly until you can see, and only when you know for sure that is clear, then you proceed. Know that, okay? If you can't see, same thing with backing out of a parking space. If you can't see, super slow backing up until you can see, and when you can see, then you proceed, okay? Only when you can see. Don't go unless you can see and you know it's clear. If I had been on the bus, my mouth would have been moving a mile a second. And the other piece about that, Colton, in terms of buses, not so much with transit buses, but especially highway coaches, I always sit in the back of the bus. I feel much safer in the back of the bus, especially on a transit bus. So there are reasons for that. I know a lot about traffic crashes and buses involved in traffic crashes, so I tend to sit at the back. Observation, 360-degree awareness, okay? Backing up, changing lanes, shoulder checking, as we have talked about. And then finally, communication, the ways that we communicate with other traffic on the roadway. Position of the vehicle, position of the road user is the number one way that we communicate, because smart drivers will come back and tell me all the time that other people do not signal, and that is true. It is part and parcel of the problems of social driving that other drivers do not signal. So know that other drivers are not going to signal, but there are ways that they communicate what they are doing on the roadway to you by if a vehicle is in the left turning lane, there's a high probability it's going to turn left. If the vehicle in front of you is slowing down as it's approaching an intersection and it's drifting slightly to the right, you know that there's a high probability that vehicle is going to turn right. If there is a pedestrian standing at the crosswalk, there's a high probability that that pedestrian is going to cross the road at the crosswalk. So the position of the vehicle, the position of the road user on the roadway or in relation to something else is going to communicate intent. Lights and signals, eye contact with pedestrians, with road users, cars, and other things, okay? And then using hand gestures. Use all 5 fingers. Don't tell them they're number 1 on a driver's test, especially, and other times, because you want to reduce the chances of a road rage incident. And then finally, use of the horn, and use the horn sparingly because it's seen as a sign of aggression in North America. But, you know, if you're sitting at a traffic light and the vehicle in front is not going because they're distracted, they're looking at their phone or whatnot, just a light tap on your phone will tell them to get going. Retired, I have an 800-mile trip coming up and I'd like to travel. Retired, that sounds awesome. So 800 miles, so it's a couple of days of driving. Are you sightseeing along the way, or is it just like 800 miles, head down, bump, kind of going 800 miles? Is that what you're doing there, my friend? Stephen, any tips for parallel parking? I struggle with when starting to turn the other way. Okay, Corey will put up the videos for you on parallel parking. Have a look at those, Stephen. Those will definitely help you out. But essentially, setting up is going to be the biggest piece that's going to help you out with your parallel parking, Stephen. But essentially, 3 feet from the vehicle beside you that you're parking behind, pull up, and you want one of your landmarks can be the 2 mirrors can be in line, or the backs of the vehicles are in line, all the way to the right with the steering wheel backing in until you face your 45, which is generally the 45 degrees is like where the mirror and the A pillar comes together. So the metal part and the mirrors attached right in between there is generally your 45-degree angle backing in. Corey's put up the video on parallel parking. Thank you for that, Corey. Back in, facing your 45, straighten the wheel out, come until you're half to a third of the way down the hood, okay? Once you get that, then turn the steering wheel all the way to the left. The front end will come in and back up. Straight forward, stop so you can just see the top of the bumper of the vehicle in front of you. Now, I've explained all that. I have millions of views on the parallel park video. Somebody left a comment a few weeks ago saying, doesn't make any sense at all. I need measurements. And I'm like, this isn't geometry. This is driving. This is the art part of driving. So there you go. Emily, did my first long road trip, almost 4 hours both ways last week. Can definitely say the channel has helped me feel confident enough to do so. Thank you so much. Excellent. Absolutely excellent, Emily. That is really great. So glad that we could help out and make you feel confident on your 400-mile trip there. Really great. Epic, regarding coach drivers, they need protection on a rear end accidents. Therefore, keep your distance from vehicles. Case for it is the bus accident yesterday. Email articles about that to you. Excellent. Thank you for that, Epic. I appreciate that. Retired, how many miles should a person drive per day? I'm going back to North Carolina after being in Florida for a couple of months for cancer treatment. I just don't want to overdo it. Okay, retired, if you don't want to do it and you got lots of time, how far did you say it was there? Just let me, you said 800 miles. Okay, so 800 miles, you know, if you don't want to do it, I would do it over 2.5 days. Okay, that's pretty easy. That's about 300 miles. You're looking at 60 miles an hour. You're looking at about 4 or 5 hours a day, okay? You really don't want to do much more than that. So I would kind of book the trip over 3 days, especially if you're coming back and you're still convalescing. That's what I would suggest to you. Do it over 3 days. Plan 3 days for an 800-mile trip. That way you can go, you can drive for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if you can do that. You can get out of the vehicle, go for a walk, have some food, have some drink, some water, keep yourself well hydrated, right? And then carry on with yourself. And so that's what I would do. So 800 miles divided by 3 is 2. Am I thinking this right? 250 miles a day? Yeah, that's what I would book. That's my suggestion to you. It depends on how you're feeling, how your health is, right? And those types of things. So I would book for 3 days. Okay, excellent. I wish you all the best. If you passed the driver's test in the last couple of weeks, congratulations. If you have a test coming up in the next week or so, good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Thank you so much for all your fantastic questions and your engagement in the live stream. Greatly appreciated. All the best. Bye now.